I had a lot of great teachers. But don't take my word for it. Take the word of my fellow alumni of the Hackley School in Tarrytown, New York. During his 5th year there, they chose to dedicate the school yearbook to Arthur Naething, an honor that was repeated during his 16th year there, and his 28th, and his 35th. He taught English, 35 years at Hackley, 8 at other places. He retired in 1995. Recently, we spent an hour together in front of 2 cameras as part of a project for the school. And as usual, in 1 hour with Mr. Naething, I learned more than most students could expect to learn from most teachers in a year.
Do you feel as if you have reached some reasonable answer to the question about what teaching is all about? At least what teaching Shakespeare and Hamlet is all about?
Teaching, to me, I have no philosophy. I don't believe in philosophies. Philosophies are written by people who don't have anything else to do. And if I had a philosophy, it would simply be get in the classroom, do the best you can, and hope that somebody responds. And that's my philosophy, and that's what I do. And if the kids take it, they take it. If they don't take it, well, we all have to be rejected somewhere along the way. I would think that every teacher, whether he admits it or not, is to some degree a frustrated actor. Every teacher realizes he goes in the classroom, he's in the front, center stage. Now that's a pretty good place to be. Center stage, captive audience, and you have to be a character.
In my profession, I often use as a yardstick, if I'm not interested in it, there is no chance that the audience will be interested in it. Is it the same for a teacher?
Years and years ago, I was teaching a poem. Don't ask me what poem, I've forgotten. I spent most of the period teaching that poem. Class ended, people went away. One boy came up, he said, "You didn't like that poem, did you?" They see right through you. It's incredible. So from that point on, I never taught a poem I didn't like. I decided that was the best thing to do, because if I'm not enthusiastic, they're not going to be.
I was wondering where I got that barometer and that yardstick from, so thank you for that.
When I was in, I guess it was graduate school, and I knew I was going to be a teacher, but I didn't know where I was going to teach, obviously. Would it be public school? If so, then I had to take courses in education. And I took whatever the required number is. I mean, absolute waste of time and money, but I took them because one has to. In fact, I remember applying for one job. I contacted a school in my hometown, and they were interested in me, my background, where I taught, courses I'd taken, so on and so forth. But they couldn't offer me a job because I hadn't had a course in hygiene. To this day, I still don't know what a course in hygiene has to do with teaching 17-year-olds about Shakespeare, or Melville, or Whitman, what have you. And I was sure that in the English class I would never have to teach them how to brush their teeth. And they all seem to be, well, they all seem to be reasonably clean. I assume they showered every day, changed their clothes occasionally. This one education course I took, I had to set up a schedule, lesson plan, a whole book, a whole year teaching English, which I did. And it wasn't easy because it was a lot of paper, and I was extremely poor, and it hurt to buy that paper. I mean, it meant I wasn't going to have a sandwich for lunch, but be it as it may. I turned it in, got my A, went off to class, my first class, Mercersburg. Into class, opened my book, first day, teacher introduces himself, talks about the books, so on. Second day, start on whatever the reading was. So start doing that, and then a boy put his hand in the air. There's nothing in my book about boy puts hand in air. And I was thrown off completely. And, well, it wasn't long before the book ended up in the trash, where it belonged to begin with. And from that point on, I decided, all right, you take control, you go just so far, and a boy raises his hand, you just sort of that way, and call on him later. But get the point across first. And then whatever developed after that, I really can't tell you. I just don't know.
We were well aware that we were not to touch the shades.
Right, there are, of course.
Don't fool with the shades,
That's
boy,
right.
was
That's right.
the general statement. For one class, and for reasons that have never been clear to me, though 30 years nearly have passed since it happened, you had me teach a course. You had me teach a class. I suspect you were just tired.
I must have had some confidence in you.
Well, I'm sorry.
I hope you didn't let me down. I don't know.
Well, perhaps not. But it does there is an interesting point to it, and I've told the story before. You went and sat back next to the small window. And I don't know, at about 5 minutes, at my equivalent point to yours of when boy raises hand and it's not in the text anywhere, my point had been passed. I could feel the waves of resentment coming up from my classmates and the requests for the refund that would be demanded by their parents. Suddenly, out of nowhere, the shade behind your window rolled up with a deafening retort.
I was innocent.
Well, you were, but just as a natural reaction, I had to say, looking right at you, don't fool with the shade, boy. There was a gasp in the classroom, and
Rightly so.
Rightly so, and there was a rather stone-faced look on your face at the beginning, which dissolved into a very deep, resonant laughter.
Well, because I saw myself, and I was amused, as I'm sure you people probably were too.
What I found most useful about that, though, in terms of the educational experience, and I don't think I could have perceived it then, it was one of the first times that I realized that authority is not diminished by allowing the occasional piece of humor to be directed at it successfully, but it's in fact supported, that a little built-in escape, that a little self-deprecation in those situations can be extraordinarily valuable and bonding. Did you ever seriously think of other careers? Were there other options in terms of what you would have done with your working?
The only other career, if you will, that ever passed in my mind, you seem to be speaking about my entire life. When I was a little boy, I wanted to be the engineer that drove the train that took my father to New York every day, every working day. I didn't succeed in that. And so somehow I went on to teaching. Don't ask me when I decided to be a teacher. I can't tell you. Maybe I became a teacher. Well, you know, everybody knows the old statement. Those who can do, those who can't do, teach. And those who can't teach, teach teachers. And so I obviously couldn't do anything else, so I taught. And that's where I am. I never thought of doing anything else. I should have. I should have become a bartender. I could have made a fortune. And I could be living somewhere exciting. But that's about it.
Thank goodness he did not become a bartender. Arthur Naething, teacher. But wait, there's more. Our #1 story on tonight's countdown, more for Mr. Naething. Because simply, for hundreds of us over the years, he might as well have co-authored Moby Dick and Hamlet. Stand by. Down and our #1 story on it. More now with a man I wanted you to meet, Arthur Naething. For 35 years, teacher of English of Shakespeare and Moby Dick and Whitman at the Hackley School in suburban New York City. And one further bit of testimony to the influence of a great teacher. There are really only 2 newscasts here on cable at 8 p.m. Eastern every night. And Mr. Naething has former students appearing on each of them. There's me, and there's Joe Klein, political columnist and contributor to CNN's Paul Azan Now. In fact, Joe and I were the co-chairs of Arthur Naething's retirement celebration, to which about 10% of all the students he ever taught showed up. And before he would end every class by imploring every last one of us to go forth and spread beauty and light, he made a gift to us of his affection for and appreciation of William Shakespeare.
As your students felt as if we had met William Shakespeare via you, under what circumstances did you begin to feel, and through whom did you feel you had met William Shakespeare?
I never met him. But I...
Thank you for dispelling that rumor, first off.
You're the one who brought it up years ago. But at any rate, What can I say? I guess I first met William Shakespeare when I was about 14 years old. My grandmother had an incredible library collection. My grandfather had been a scholar, graduated Cambridge at age 16. And I went through the Book of Knowledge, which they had, which I loved. Grew out of that and found Hamlet. That's the first one. And he's been with me ever since.
Can you film Hamlet? Did the Branagh version do anything for you?
Well, let's start with Olivier, because that's the first film that I saw of Hamlet. And Olivier, other than being a little old, but he had a beautiful voice. He misused it at times. He did a number of things I wish he hadn't done, but it was his film. He was star and director, so what could I say?
Yes.
And on the whole, he was B-. Can I do that? Can I grade them? Branagh was very good as Henry V. Hamlet, he seemed to me, well, it seemed to me that he was aware he was playing Hamlet. He just seemed as though, I'm not Hamlet, I'm Ken Branagh, and that's it.
The theories that have gained seeming momentum in the last 100 years, that there's another author, that there were multiple authors, that Shakespeare was the manager of the Globe Theatre under whose name these things were published to protect the authors, are all valid and worthy of discussion, in your opinion?
I just don't see that's worth bothering with, personally. But I'm just an old man who has enjoyed certain things that have come my way, certain plays that somehow God directed me to. I don't know why. I've enjoyed them. They're by William Shakespeare. All right, I'll buy that. I'll go along with that. They're by William Shakespeare. I think what I see, though, more than anything, perhaps, is just Shakespeare as an idea. But, I mean, somebody wrote these things, and I'm a file clerk. I have all these things. What am I going to do with them? Well, here's a folder. It's called Shakespeare. I'll put them in there.
All right, the last question was the best one that was submitted by your former students. Where did Go Forth and Spread Beauty and Light originate?
It originated in my classroom. I think in a moment of depression or frustration, something possibly had upset me. Not with my students, but the world at large. And perhaps subconsciously I'm thinking, well, this is the future of the world. This is the future of America. Don't go out in the hallway and make a noise, run around. Go out and do something. The world can use something and use some beauty. So go forth and spread beauty and light. Teach, instruct, share your knowledge. And that's it. That's all I can say.
I can only hope that you all had a teacher like Arthur Naething. That's Countdown. Thanks for being part of it. I'm Keith Olbermann. 2 pieces of advice tonight. Don't fool with the shades, boy. And go forth and spread beauty and light.
This is an MSNBC special.